For solopreneurs, personal branding is everything because you are your business. You are the face of your business. If you get good at crafting your story and hitting those emotional connections with your audience and relatable connections, I think that's really where marketing is going. I know so many people, they'll do the client work, and then at the end of the day, that's when they focus on their marketing efforts. That's not an optimal time to think of how to get your business out to the world.
Welcome to the Marketing Guides for Small Businesses podcast, where we simplify what really works in today's fast-paced marketing world. I'm Jeff Steck from Tylerica Marketing Systems in Austin, Texas, and I'm joined today by my co-hosts, Ken Tucker of Changescape Web, now in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Paul Barthel, also from Changescape Web in St. Louis, Missouri. Ian Cantle of Outsource Marketing in Bradford, Ontario, has the day off today. Well, today we have a special treat. We're joined by Carly Reese, a marketing expert with nearly 20 years of experience working with everything from local shops to Fortune 500 companies. Since 2020, Carly has served as the fractional chief marketing officer for LifeStar, co-hosting the Aspiring Solopreneur podcast, and co-authoring the upcoming book, Solopreneur Business for Dummies. I need that one. She's passionate about empowering solopreneurs to build businesses and lives they love, bringing valuable insights from her journey in marketing and remote work. Welcome, Carly.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Let's just kick it off with some questions, and we'll kind of roundtable around. And I'll start the first one. So since your focus is on solopreneurs, I think that is a big part of our audience and one we don't specifically focus on all the time. So it's really great to have this as our dedicated topic this week. So let's start with, how can solopreneurs identify their ideal customer and tailor their marketing to reach them?
Yeah, so I think when people start their businesses, finding out who their ideal customer is can be kind of intimidating. They think they have to do campaigns or do this huge effort or make this huge effort to try to understand who they are. And for solopreneurs, you really have to whittle it down and get that face-to-face interaction. The fact of the matter is, for solopreneurs, they don't need 500 clients to make a living. They maybe need 5 to 10. And so why put in so much effort when you really just need to get straight to the point and have those one-on-one conversations with people? Of course, you can send out those surveys. You can do the social listening and kind of see what people are doing online. But I think when you're wearing all the hats in your business and marketing is just one of them, you just need to get focused. They have a hypothesis of who you think your personas or your audiences are, and then test it and meet with people for coffee. Go to local networking groups, go to local meetups, even if they're not networking groups, find online groups, and just start chatting with people, trying to prove your hypothesis right or wrong. So at LifeStar, where I work, we had a hypothesis. We have a persona that's frustrated Frank. That's somebody that's in their corporate job, and they're thinking about starting their own solopreneur business and need all the hand-holding. So that's one. And so we're like, well, that's probably the person that's going to need our services, like some hand-holding as a solopreneur. And then we have experienced Erica, who's an established persona that just kind of needs to streamline things. And we're like, well, that'll be a secondary persona, somebody that already has their wheels turning. And what we found is that Erica is our primary and Frank is our secondary. But we wouldn't have known that if we just kind of kept working in silo, thinking we knew what we were talking about, when really the conversations we were having proved to be otherwise. So I think really having those targeted conversations, and then once you know who those are, if you have multiple personas, focus on one or two and then tailor that messaging to each of those personas. There's never been a better time to do that with AI. And you can take basic messaging and then say, hey, cater this to Frank, or hey, cater this to Erica, and just don't reinvent the wheel and move your messaging from there. So I think you need to, it's the whole, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Instead of making it this huge, huge deal and this big task you have to take on, have fun with it and meet those people face to face.
Yeah, I think you make some good points. I love the cute names we give to personas.
I know, right?
So is it, most businesses will have multiple personas. I think if you get past 6, it's way too many, but you mentioned 2. Is it safe to say then that businesses should start thinking early on about, solopreneurs should start thinking early on about a couple of different personas as they're testing the waters? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think they need to test it. I mean, again, you just don't want to get too overwhelmed. As a company of one, you only have so much time where you need to be focusing on operations, you need to be focusing on marketing, everything that comes with it. Why focus on six personas when, again, you may only need a handful of clients to make a living? So get really, really honed in on what you're trying to achieve with those.
So, Carly, can you describe the type of solopreneur that you're talking about? Because, I mean, there are solopreneurs who have online stores that, do a variety of different things and they need high volumes of customers. That's clearly not who you're talking about. So, just spend a moment to talk about who those folks are.
Yeah, no, Ken, that is a great point. I think what we've seen a lot of is you certainly have the like that people with Etsy stores or people with their own websites they're trying to sell to the masses. But then you also have those coaches or consultants that are out there, marketing consultants, life coaches, whatever, who don't need to run these massive marketing campaigns. They need just three, five, 10 people. And so those are the types of solopreneurs. They don't care to make $10 million a year. They just want to make it to their kid's soccer game. So a lot of times these solopreneurs, they're more lifestyle focused. Instead of making those big bucks, they want lifestyle flexibility. They want a business that serves their goals in their life as well as in their business. So that's where we see a lot of solopreneurs. Certainly there are people that need thousands of clients and want to sell their products. And in that case, I still think it's important to really identify those few specific people just so they don't get overwhelmed. You don't want those six personas as a one person business. You really want to get targeted just so that you don't burn yourself out.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So having said that, I mean, obviously, if your customer base is five or six and one of those leaves, what's your strategy to rapidly fill that gap of that, that one customer that left? Because that's a substantial chunk of the revenue.
It's huge. And I think what happens is when people run their own business, once they get clients, they just work in their business and they do all the client work and focus on what they did to get done client side, but they don't keep that pipeline going because they're like, oh, I'm set. But then when one client leaves, they're in big trouble if they don't continue to focus on their marketing efforts. And we see that time and time again. They're like, I'm good. I have enough savings for 3 to 6 months. I can just focus on my clients. But what people need to be doing is really allocating the marketing time. Like they need to be allocating time every week towards marketing efforts, towards meeting people for coffee, towards sending those emails to their personal contact list, filling them in on what's going on, because you want to get in the position where you can maybe build up a wait list or get enough clients where you can start outsourcing to other people. Even though people are solopreneurs, they can certainly still contract with other people. We recommend that all the time. Flying solo in business doesn't mean you're alone. And so I think making marketing a priority and understanding the basics and building those relationships with people needs to be top priority for solopreneurs, because you do not want to end up, like you were saying, in a situation where you're only focusing on client work and then you lose one.
Hey, Carly, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Paul.
So Google lately has been putting a lot of emphasis on entities and branding and brands. For a solopreneur, how important is personal branding?
I mean, for solopreneurs, personal branding is everything because you are your business. You are the face of your business. You take the blame when things go sour and you get all the praise when things are going well. I think what a lot of solopreneurs are misconstruing, though, is they associate now branding with like social media presence. They think, oh, well, I have to be on Instagram. I need to be on TikTok. I need to show people my personality. And that's not true. For personal branding, they just need to stay true to who they are and who their company represents and who they serve. And that can take on a variety of forms. Obviously, your website has to represent your brand and your personal brand. But also, for example, I'm a millennial. I'm supposed to love social media. I hate social media. I do it because I have to, and because I'm a marketing consultant, but I can't stand it. I would much rather be on a podcast or on stage in front of a bunch of people. And that's my personal brand. People know they're not going to get a cool TikTok trend from me because I've tried that and I look ridiculous. They know that they can get me on stage and they know that they can get me on podcasts and hosting podcasts, but that's my personal brand. And I don't want to, you need to know how to say no to things as part of a personal brand so you can focus on the core values of yourself and the core values of your business and portray yourself towards your audience of what's most genuine to you. So personal branding is everything. And whether you're at a party personally or in a business meeting, you are always representing your brand. It's funny. I feel like we tell the kids these days, don't do anything on social media you wouldn't show to your grandma. But same goes for solopreneurs in their business. You are your business. And so represent it well and take care of it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Paul.
I was gonna say, this might be a little off topic because I agree with everything you said, but now what happens when you are the business, sometime down the road, you want to sell your business?
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. A lot of the solopreneurs we talk to, again, they're lifestyle or solopreneurs. So they certainly can sell their business, but they're just looking to run a business that serves their life. I think when it comes to the branding, if somebody were to buy your business, you want them to still reflect your values and reflect the values of your audience, because the people that you attract, you'd hope that they would respect your values and your personal branding. So if you were to sell, be really picky with who you're trying to attract as a buyer, because you want to be able to maintain that audience and that rapport that you've built over time with your personal brand and not just sell out to the highest bidder. I think you need to have some of that integrity when you are selling to a buyer.
Yeah, I literally just came from a lunch with a business colleague of mine who was doing a lunch and learn, and he was talking about branding, and he emphasized it a little bit differently than I would, as a marketing consultant. He's an overall business strategist and business coach, and he was emphasizing the culture aspect of it. I think that ties in exactly to what you just said. When you develop the culture and the culture becomes a big part of the brand, then that becomes something you can maybe make a little more transportable when you get down to the exit time as well. As long as you maintain that culture, find a buyer that maintains that culture.
Exactly. And when you say culture, you're the one person business. So you get to dictate all of that culture because it's yourself. And so it really turns into your baby. And so not that you would sell your baby, but you think of it. I mean, everything, your emotions are so intertwined with your business. It's so easy to say, oh, it's not personal. It's not personal. It's business. But when you're a solopreneur, it can feel personal because you're so intertwined with it. So I think for solopreneurs, when they're looking to sell, it's easier for them to go after those values and to look for people that hold the same because they're so attached to it, rather than somebody that owns a big company and can kind of separate themselves from their business.
Mm-hmm. So Carly, let's talk about storytelling and what role that plays for solopreneurs in marketing, and how can they craft compelling stories, and what stories really are resonating with people?
Yeah. So, I mean, you guys, we live in the age of AI, and anybody can go in, type in a prompt, and spit out something that sounds pretty good. I mean, we all use it. We use it to help us craft our messaging. I still don't recommend people use it to actually write the entire thing for them and then publish blindly. You still need your personality in there. But I think the thing that's going to start differentiating business owners from others is using their stories to connect with their audience instead of just typing prompts into an AI and putting that out into the world, because it all starts to sound the same. If you see those M dashes, AI wrote it. If you see delve, AI wrote it. I mean, there's just, everything can really start to blend together. But if you get good at crafting your story and hitting those emotional connections with your audience and relatable connections, I think that's really where marketing is going. It's so funny because remember, like 10 years ago, you could put a white paper and ebook out there and have somebody download it and you grow your email list. It was so easy because you're like, oh, I'm providing this for free. And now you have to get creative. I mean, because everybody's doing that. You can't just put a PDF out there and hope somebody will download it as easily as you used to be able to. And so crafting those stories to hit the emotional connection of your audience is really going to be what separates people in the age of AI and the future of marketing. And so if you can engage them with a hook, not a clickbaity hook, but a hook that really captures their attention, and then build tension, build suspense, and then resolve the conflict with something that resonates with your audience and making your audience the hero, that will really separate solopreneurs moving forward. Because there's like upwards of 70 million one-person businesses, whether it's a side hustle, whether it's their main gig, whatever. that's a noisy, noisy space to be in. And I think the better you can get at storytelling, the better off you and your business will be.
So it sounds a little bit like StoryBrand.
Oh, it sure does. I'm well aware.
Yeah. I'm a StoryBrand certified consultant. So
Yep.
yeah, and I love that because, a lot of times when marketing people are giving advice to people, they talk about, oh, tell your brand story, and that's all they talk about. And the brand story is very important. People want to know why you got to where you're at. What was your driving factor? Why did you decide to take on this endeavor? But really, it's all about the customer and the problem that you can solve for the customer and how that resonates. So there really needs to be two core stories that I think every business, whether you're a solopreneur or whether you're, a Fortune 500 company, at a minimum, you need these two core stories. One to speak to your customer as the hero, as you mentioned, but then also they've got to understand the founder's story. Why did you start the business? What's important? What are the corporate values? What are your values? And those they can intermingle, and they should intermingle, but they are clearly have two specific different purposes.
And Ken, I'm so happy you brought up the brand story because I think people do get nervous now because we say so much for the making the client the protagonist. Like people get nervous to talk about themselves because they think everything on your website, the messaging needs to be about your customer, all of your email messaging, all of that. But I think where the brand story comes in, or your personal brand story comes into play, is the relatable component. And you start to realize that you're not alone. And so I know, at least for me, when I get clients and customers as solopreneurs, I was overworked. This is, back 10, 15 years ago. Faced burnout, was working 80 hours a week. And my husband and I were traveling in an RV, and we were traveling the country and having the best time. But I was stuck in an RV 24 hours a day, just clanking away at my computer and missing everything that we had set out to do. And I was like, there has to be a better way to do this. And it changed me forever. And I'm no longer on the road, but that's the connection story that I use. Like, hey, I have faced burnout. I have missed out on those life goals. I have missed out on opportunities that I wanted so badly. Let's fix that. I have fixed it for myself. How can I fix that with you? So the what you sell, yeah, you have to make them your hero, but the relatability comes from the brand story. So I'm so glad you brought that up.
Let's switch gears a little bit, Carly. Let's go back to just kind of general marketing overall. What are some of the most common marketing mistakes that you see solopreneurs make, and how can they avoid them?
Oh boy. So the first one, not fully understanding their audience. I think people get so excited about their product or service that they just kind of work in a silo to get it out into the world, and they don't get feedback. The hard thing when you're working alone is you don't have those other people around you to bounce ideas off of. So if you think you're right and you're convinced of that, you're just going to keep going, whether or not your audience wants it or not. So I think not testing your ideas with others and not fully understanding your audience and who you're actually selling to, because that is the core, not only for marketing, but everything related to your business. If you don't know who your audience really is, you're in big trouble. So I think that's a big one. I think the other thing for solopreneurs is they're like, okay, I have this business idea I'm so excited about. Let's use coaching, for example. I know I'm a really good coach. I can get people on the right path, but they don't know anything about marketing. And so they'll go and they'll read these marketing books, these famous marketing books that everybody in marketing has read, but they'd be like, okay, I need an email marketing campaign. I need a social media campaign. I need everything that big businesses would use, when really, like I said earlier, they don't have time to run all those massive campaigns while they're running all other aspects of their business. So I think taking the ideas of some of those big business campaigns and whittling it down to something that just solopreneurs need to know specifically. For example, SEO. We all know SEO is important for businesses to get found online. We also know it's changing a lot right now in the age of AI. For a solopreneur, is SEO the best move if you need clients immediately, or is getting that coffee the best move? if you need clients immediately. So I think really trying to figure out the marketing tactics for their specific business rather than just doing things because they think they're supposed to be doing things is a big one that we see happening a lot for solopreneurs. I would say just trying to do everything themselves is the biggest one. So like I said earlier, flying solo in business doesn't mean you're alone. Outsource, automate, and use AI are things we really try to drive home. You're wearing all the hats. It's so easy to get so overwhelmed. So if you don't like something or if you're not good at something, outsource it. Find another contractor that you can pass it along to or automate it. Figure out systems that you don't need to do the follow-up emails for onboarding. You can do that, set that up in an automation tool, have it run in the background. And then AI, there's so many ways you can use it to streamline your operations and your marketing. Figure out ways that you can do that in your business. Because I think time and time again, people think they just need to babysit all of the tasks on their plate. And that simply isn't true. There are ways solopreneurs can use those three things to get some deep breaths and free up some time for themselves, especially in their marketing efforts. So those are the big things that I think we see time and time again, no matter what industry people are in.
So on a kind of a related side question, there's this balance in not just marketing, but in everything of, perfection versus just get something out there, get it quick. Matter of fact, we had Guy Kawasaki on a few weeks back and we were kind of talking about that. I think he jokingly said he wished he'd never written the book about just get it out. It doesn't have to be good. Because he's very much an exceptional guy talking about representing some exceptional products. But there's this notion of get it out there, get it quick, get something going versus make it perfect. And the whole, analysis paralysis and loss of potential early reputation. So I want to take it back to, in your experience working with solopreneurs, how are they on that spectrum and where should they be? How do you guide them to where they should go?
Get it good enough. Like don't release a product that's not ready. Get your product and your service ready to a place where you think it's ready. It's probably not, but get it to a place where you think it's ready and where people will want it and then test. We see people try to be perfectionists way too often. And it's easy to get into analysis paralysis because honestly, once you release it, it's scary. It's vulnerable, imposter syndrome sneaks in, and you're like, oh my gosh. But if you're still in the control and you are still in control and you're in the driver's seat before it's out to the public, there's a comfort in that. And so I think you have to get it good enough. I mean, you guys are podcasters. I'm a podcaster. I love hearing John Lee Dumas talk about his first few episodes of them just being horrible. And now he's one of the most famous podcasters out there. And I think people need to get it at a place where people can purchase it. They have all the back end stuff set up and then release it and finesse from there. You should always be iterating and revising your business, your marketing efforts, your operations, because you're going to constantly be learning and you're always going to be learning about your customers. The environment around you is always going to be changing. And so get it out there when it's good enough, knowing that it will change. I feel like very few people launch perfectly. And if they do, I would love to grab a cup of coffee with them.
All right. So money. It's hard to talk about marketing without talking about money. And a lot of solopreneurs don't have a lot of it. So what advice would you have for solopreneurs about marketing with a limited budget?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously there are a lot of ways to market that don't spend a lot of money. There's social media, there's email, there's creating content, putting it out there too, like we were saying earlier, to get those email addresses. I think where people are spinning the wheels is when they don't fully understand what's working with marketing and what isn't. I talk to so many people that are like, I'm posting on Facebook, I'm posting on Instagram, I'm not getting anything. And the social media world has changed. It really has turned into a pay to play for a lot of these big platforms, which isn't realistic for a lot of solopreneurs. I think where their time is better spent specifically for social media is getting into groups and building those relationships online. Don't just heart a post or like a post and think you're golden. Like, get in there and build those relationships. I think for solopreneurs, being human and relationship building is 101. Being helpful is the thing that's going to skyrocket their business to where they want it faster. And so I think from a budget standpoint, really focusing on that relationship building and those one-on-one interactions, getting involved in community, both online and offline, are really big and don't cost a dime. I think another big thing I'm seeing people get a lot of like bang for their buck because it's free is hosting online events now and using those as a lead gen tool and ways to build rapport without spending a dime. So if they have a, let's say, a webinar or a workshop that they want to do, getting people to engage in those are proving to be really good lead gen tools for smaller businesses because they get that face-to-face interaction like we're having right now by still and building trust and providing value. And just take, I mean, the time is, I guess time is money is a thing, but they're not spending any actual dollars to do that. And so I think really trying to think outside the box and not spinning your wheels and wasting a lot of time with the time is money approach is big. But there are so many ways to get in front of your audience now without having to pay. It's just not the traditional ways. Posting on social media doesn't get a lot of traction anymore. PPC can get expensive. So focus on the other aspects that I just discussed first, and then you can focus on the bigger marketing efforts.
Yeah, I think those are some good points. And it's like posting on social media is not marketing. Okay, it's just not. But I like what you said about the events. We do some work for a landscaper down in Florida, and it's like a $5 million a year business, but it didn't start out that way, obviously. And in the summer, so they're down in Florida, so their summer's longer than most, but every month he does a different workshop, charges like $10 because he rents a room, and he gets a lot of business from that. And he does a sod giveaway every year. He has a contest where he does a sod giveaway, and then the people that entered that didn't win, he follows up with an email and gives them a discount on different services. And he gets a lot of business just from doing those two things.
Yeah. It's wild. And again, those relationships are so key. The other thing I think a lot of solopreneurs don't do that doesn't cost a dime and is email related is they don't tell people what they do. There's something about like that seems salesy if they're like, oh, I'm a marketing consultant, that makes them think like, oh, well, if I tell my friends and family that, they're going to think I'm trying to pitch them. When in reality, they're going to be your biggest cheerleaders. So what I also recommend solopreneurs do that's totally free is quarterly, just reach out to your friends and family, say, hey, this is what I have going on. Hope all is well with you. Just wanted to fill you in. I realize I haven't told you what's going on in my life recently, because then they'll be the first ones to want to refer you to other people. And so many people forget to do that. I remember when I was first starting in my career, I overheard my parents say that I was a creative director for an ad agency, neither of which were true. But I had never had that conversation with my parents of what I actually did. And so I think like even talk about low-hanging fruits that doesn't seem like marketing at all. Just tell your network what you're up to and let them refer you to people that might use your services. And that doesn't cost a dime.
Yeah. I had that conversation with my parents, but it didn't translate.
It's over. Well, I actually recently, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a dermatologist, and she said, what do you do? And I said, I'm a fractional CMO for a company on the East Coast. And she was so concerned. And I was kind of, what's wrong? And she was like, are you qualified to be a chief medical officer? And I was like, oh, we live in completely different worlds. No, I definitely am not qualified to be a chief medical officer. Yeah. So it's funny. So just be careful how you phrase what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I certainly don't want to encourage people to think that social media is, the best place, but there are signs that because of the impact of TikTok, the algorithms for all the other social platforms are changing to where it's no longer follower driven, which has really boxed everything in on social media. And now it's more interest driven. So there is a little crack of opportunity, maybe for certain businesses, depending on the type of business you have as a solopreneur, to get maybe better traction now out of social media than you have been able to in the past. But again, it's not the lead generator. It's just a way to continue. It's kind of a necessary evil. But there is a little bit more opportunity we're seeing there. We had Mari Smith on And she was talking about how, that has really become a big driver and change on behavior on Facebook and Instagram. So there's a little hope, but again, don't make the mistake of thinking social media is my channel. That's the only thing I need to do, and that you're going to get wild success out of that.
And honestly, I've been calling them old school marketing tactics, which I don't know if that's the right term to use. But I mean, direct mail, like things that we used to do before the internet. I'm in my 30s, so I don't want to say that I like, oh, way back in the day. But I mean, even like some sort of out of home, I mean, just things, old marketing tactics that we kind of felt like no longer work or that weren't trackable when the digital age came. People are getting responses to those because it's not as noisy as the online world now. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say don't do digital marketing strategies. Like that's still where people's focus should be, especially when they want an inexpensive one. But I think you really have to think outside the box. But circling back to what you just said with Mari, who obviously knows what she's talking about, I think another thing that I see solopreneurs do wrong is they'll post on social with links constantly linking to their offers or back to their website. And one of the big algorithm changes with social right now is to keep people on the platform.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, go check out my product or service on my website, maybe say link in bio. If you're doing a story on Instagram, let's say like link in bio, so that they'll click through to your page instead of immediately off of this site. Or do collaborations with people where you think of contest ideas to keep people on the platform. But that's where you're going to start seeing more traction too, is if you can prove to the algorithms that you want people to stay in that one place and that you're not constantly driving traffic out the door.
Yeah, definitely. So with all that our solopreneurs do, how should they prioritize their marketing efforts while they're juggling all of the other multiple responsibilities?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of alluded to this earlier. They have to continue with that pipeline and thinking about it and making marketing a priority once a week. Let's say on Monday when you're planning out the rest of your week, or Sunday night when I plan out my week, think of like a time block when marketing is going to be your priority. And the beautiful thing about marketing these days is you can schedule everything in advance. So if you wanted to get a week of content ready to go on Monday morning, time block and get them all scheduled so you can focus on the other areas of your business, the operations, the finances, the networking, all of that, and just get it taken care of. But do it around a time that your brain is working. I know so many people, they'll do the client work, and then at the end of the day, that's when they focus on their marketing efforts. And that's not an optimal time to think of how to get your business out to the world. So I always say try to think of that earlier on in the day. But I think time blocking is huge, just to make sure that it really does stay on your calendar. And think of ways that you can streamline your efforts. So repurpose content. If you do those live events, repurpose content from those events, from this podcast. You can take social from it. I mean, email, everything. So don't reinvent the wheel every Monday morning when you're going through your marketing efforts. Assess what's working and repurpose content and use other people's content. We're just talking about social media. People share other people's content all the time. It doesn't mean you have to be creating everything time and time again. Just think about what your audience would want and repurpose for them. But it doesn't have to be a huge time suck. You just have to make sure you are creating that time for it, because it's so easy to get distracted when you have everything else in your business going on.
Yeah. Right now, I think we're in a great opportunity for, there have never been better productivity tools. Mm-hmm. There are also potentially rabbit holes that you can spend endless time going down. But you can, Paul and I have just done this where, we've created AI clones of ourselves, video, and launched a new podcast. And that's, it's created by AI, but vetted by humans. So it reduced the time to create content by at least 80 to 90%. Our time now is to review the content and the quality of the content. You do the work once up front to record and clone your AI voice, to clone your video persona. and now it's become a force multiplier. And, once you have the audio that you like from your podcast, guess what? It's really easy to produce a video from that. And now you have a video that lives on YouTube. You have a podcast that's syndicated across the podcast platforms. You take the transcript, you've got a blog post. I mean, so you've got, if you create a content machine and then you factor in the repurposing tools, create YouTube shorts or Instagram reels, whatever's appropriate, you can really do an awful lot without a whole lot of time, but it has to be focused. It has to be something that's going to resonate with your audience. And the interesting thing about AI is it going to be authentic to yourself if you're cloning yourself using AI technology?
Exactly. Well, and the other thing, I think, just speaking of AI and being able to crank things out, is we are all well versed in the strategy first approach. And
Yeah.
I think people get shiny object syndrome, especially with TikTok and with social media. And they're like, oh, well, I had these plans for Monday morning and I was going to repurpose all this content, but there's an ice bucket challenge going on. Maybe instead of doing this, I'm going to dump ice on my head and see, and no, like, stick with your strategy. There's a place for ice. If you have extra time in your day and you want to put an ice bucket challenge, have at it. But use your strategy. Drive everything you do. It needs to be a strategy first, then tactics approach. And I think so. I'm so glad you said all of that, because you can use AI to generate as many things as you want. But if you don't do it with focus, you're just wasting time.
I was going to ask to dig into social media a little bit more. I think we've covered that really well, unless there's anything, aspect of it that you think we've missed. Carly, is there anything else you'd like to add? Otherwise, I think Paul's got the next one.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Sorry, Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I would like to add one thing. If you are going to be investing time and effort in social media, first of all, if you are your brand as your business, you've got to be authentic. But the second thing is, if you're expecting to get results from social media and you're only posting once a week, you might as well forget it. Social media, in order for the algorithms to care about you and pick up your content and give you the possibility to be discovered in the world that Mari's talking about, where it's more interest driven, you've got to be posting daily or a couple of times a day. And again, that requires forethought and planning and being consistent with the strategy that you've laid out for yourself. But don't just fool. I mean, too many solopreneurs think, too many businesses of all sizes think, oh, I post once a week on social media, I'm good. And it's like, not really.
No. And I mean, and on top of the posting, I follow a podcast and he talks about the targeted daily engagement, the TDE. So in addition to posting, if you really want to get traction, you need to show that you yourself are staying on the platform that you're trying to get other people to stay on. And you need to leave those comments, those constructive comments, not just like your post or I agree, but really be helpful in those comments and like spending. I mean, I think for social media, certainly put stuff out there so you show your credibility and your authority. But use most of your time on social media to be helpful and build those relationships with others.
Yeah. Carly, you did also mention, that social media for many solopreneurs works better when you're inside of a group, a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how, is it better for you to join existing groups and leverage the power of the audience that they've already built? Or is it, good for you to create your own group where you're seen as the true, authority in the group, or a combination of that? Because obviously you have limited time and resources.
Yeah. I mean, like you were saying earlier, it's easier to go down a rabbit hole and you can, if you wanted to, you could spend all day, every day in communities interacting with people. I think it depends on the business. If there are already established groups within your industry that you don't think you could provide extra value by creating your other, then dive headfirst into those other communities that already exist. But a lot of people are even starting to create their own communities outside of social. Circle is a new I guess it's not new anymore, but is a platform people use. I'm a part of a few different circle groups. And I think if you have the capacity and the bandwidth, I think that's a big thing. And really have that bandwidth and be honest with yourself with that, where you can go in and you can monitor and you can manage, especially as you're building the community, where you really need to, before it takes off and has its own legs without your involvement. I think creating your community is a great idea, because then people will associate you and what you do with connecting others, really being helpful. I mean, with communities, as long as there's a no promotional component to it, because you don't want to join those groups where it's like, hey, check out my webinar for $50. I mean, hopefully people aren't charging $50. A lot of people are charging $50 for a webinar. But I think if you have the bandwidth to create your own space and be the leader of that space and prove that you're just trying to educate and help others, that's a huge credibility win and a great lead generator, provided you have the time to dedicate to growing it. Because it's hard to build a community from scratch, whether it's on Facebook, Circle, whatever. You need to put a lot of time and effort towards it. If you can accommodate that, it's a great idea. If you can't, just contribute to other communities and get your voice heard in those. And again, be educational, be helpful. Do not be promotional in those groups. That's a surefire way to annoy people and get kicked out.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, next question, I think you've kind of covered it pretty in depth about relationships, online communities, going and getting coffee with someone to build that in-person relationship if you can. So I didn't know if you had anything to add to that.
No, I just think, in the age of AI, I was talking about story is important to stand out, but being human, I think, is so important right now. And showing you're a real person, showing you really care, showing you're the wizard behind the Wizard of Oz facade. I just think being human now is more important than ever, whether that's meeting for a person for a cup of coffee or just showing up, doing those targeted daily engagements for people. Authenticity and human nature are going to go such a long way in the world of AI. So I think that would be my only parting words of wisdom in that area.
Yeah, we've kind of come full circle.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because you've got the ability to do so much more with AI, which is great. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, we're all still human. We want that human interaction. So
it's true.
So let's talk a little bit about how solopreneurs can leverage partnerships or collaborations. What role does that play in helping them expand their reach? And also make sure you talk about any affiliate marketing relationships or things like that provide maybe additional streams of revenue, if that makes sense or not for solopreneurs, or is that compromising kind of their credibility?
No, I think it absolutely does, provided the affiliate link is credible.
Right.
And is also in line with what you're selling. You don't want, that's a big thing. I think affiliate links, there's like some trend going around that you can make millions of dollars just by adding links to emails or promoting on social. And that just waters down everything. I think for affiliate links, you need to be targeted there too, and really choose companies that you fully endorse yourself, that you would use, and that are relevant to your audience. Don't just put an affiliate link in because you think you might get a 10-cent commission. So I think you have to be strategic there. In terms of partners and collaborations, those are huge for solopreneurs. One, because as a solopreneur, by definition, you can't scale with employees. You can, of course, contract with others, but adding employees is a big way to grow your business. And if you don't have that, you need to be strategic and think of other ways to do that. So collaborations and partnerships are a big way to do that. And what I always say is, instead of looking at competition as a threat or competitor, think of ways that you guys can work together. If you're going after the same audience, how can you team up and address the audience? And if it's not a competitor per se, you want somebody that can complement your business, like a writer and an illustrator. Team up and find people that have a similar audience to yours and cross-promote your products and services. Go in on a joint podcast together. Go in on a joint email campaign together. Think of fun contests that you can do and where people you'll tag their business, they'll tag yours. but it's a way to get exposure into new audiences without twice the work. And it's a great way to just network within your space and refer other people. If you get in really good as a writer with an illustrator, you guys can be great referral sources for one another. So I think from a time saving standpoint and a new audience introduction standpoint, partnerships and collaborations are key for if you want to continue to grow your business without the extra overhead.
Yeah, I think, too many people have loosely defined partnerships and don't really put a strategic partner program in place. I mean, work with people who could be your golden geese referral sources, or like you said, a natural collaborator so that you both have the same ideal customer, but you both deliver different parts of the solution to those customer sets, but formalize that. Don't just let it happen by chance. Take that extra step and where it makes sense or where it's necessary, create incentives to get those referrals. I think, for solopreneurs, referral marketing is a massive opportunity. And some people are more natural in the way that they can get those referral relationships put in place. But for a lot of people, you really do need to have a formalized program and make it crystal clear what's in it for them, what's in it for you. How are you going to still protect and preserve their reputation? Because they're putting their name on the line when they're giving you that referral from one of their clients or one of their business associates to you. So don't just let it happen to chance.
Oh no, absolutely. One of my favorite collaborations that I've seen today, a local brewery did a social post, and it was beer 30 or something. It was like 4:30 on a Friday. And it was like, cheers, beer 30, let's call our friends. And in the video, and it was an Instagram reel, another local brewery was cheersing and another one. They had 15 different local breweries cheersing. They were all tagged in the post. It went out to all of their audiences. Obviously, the people that follow these brewers are fans of beer.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, I've never heard. I need to try that one. Oh, I need to try that one. And so, yeah, they're technically competitors, but they serve the same people. So they're like, let's go on this together. All cheers at 4:30, and all of their audiences just skyrocketed because people found new breweries in town that they weren't aware of. It was just so cool. And it was such a unique idea that I just saw last week.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. You're making me thirsty.
Yeah. So you get creative with it.
So Carly, we're coming up on our hour. I'd like to hit one more question. We can go into a little bit. We've talked a lot about the future. We've talked about AI some, but in general, so, big picture, from your perspective, what trends in marketing specifically should solopreneurs be paying attention to in the next year?
Well, I mean, I hate to say, but AI is a big one. I mean, just because it's changing so much. We were talking offline before this call that there are new platforms coming out every day that it's like, well, this one's specific for email marketing, and this one's specific for creating the images for that email marketing. And it just seems like every day there's a new AI platform that gets released to help your business. So I think it's important to stay on top of it, but also how people are using it. Because if you're not staying on top of it, your competitors are, or somebody else in your space is. So I know it's cliche at this point to say stay on top of AI, but you really have to. Otherwise, you're going to fall behind. But I think the thing is for solopreneurs, they so often try to stay on top of trends externally. So they're looking at what's happening within their industry, what's happening in the world, what's happening with their audience, and they never look at their own company trends. They never look at the analytics. They just keep going for what they think they should be tracking outside of their business. And for solopreneurs, I think the takeaway I would have from a trend standpoint is to look at your own numbers and analyze those trends and look inward to see what's working specifically for you, because that will give you so much information that is just neglected time and time again from one-person businesses. So I could go on and talk about all the different marketing trends that I'm sure you guys cover all the time on this show. But I really think looking inward and looking at your numbers is a big thing that they need to pay attention to. That
is a great insight. I mean, yeah, it's easy to get caught up in, the vanity metrics. It's easy to get caught up in what being published and where everybody's telling you need to be, but looking at what's going on in your business, your analytics and your customers and what they're saying is huge. I mean, that's where it starts. And now we've kind of come full circle back to that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And vanity metrics, I mean, you could have 100,000 followers on Instagram, but if you don't have any customers, who cares?
Yep.
It looks pretty and it's a good bragging point, but if you're not paying your bills, we have major issues.
Yeah.
I think with that, we're at the end of the planned questions. Is there anything else anyone's thought of? Anyone want to jump in and add? Is there, Carly, anything you'd like to add before we move toward the close?
No, I think we've covered it. I've just so enjoyed speaking with you guys today. So thank you so much for having me on.
All right, well, let me do the wrap up and we'll give you an opportunity to tell everyone how they can find you. So yeah, that's the wrap. Today's episode of Marketing Guides for Small Businesses. And a huge thanks to you, Carly, for being here and joining us and sharing such practical and inspiring advice for solopreneurs who are navigating this crazy world of not just marketing, but business ownership. And to our audience, whether you're just starting out or, if you've got several years into your business, Carly's insights from building your personal brand to avoiding common marketing pitfalls, they really offer a blueprint for doing more with less and doing it with purpose. So, Carly, how can people learn more about you and what you do, and how can they connect with you?
Yes, you can always find me on LinkedIn. I'm just Carly Reese on there, RIES. You can visit Lifestar, which is the company I'm the fractional CMO for. We are a go-to place for solopreneurs just trying to build a business that allows them to achieve their life's goals, whatever that may be. And that's Lifestar with 2Rs.com. And if you want to be a part of our free community, we have free events. Just go to lifestar.com/intro. You can access us that way. And then, of course, I have to do the shameless plug for Solopreneur Business for Dummies. That comes out early October, but you can buy the pre-sale right now on Amazon, that small mom and pop shop that I think people have heard of, as well as Barnes & Noble. And that's just Solopreneur Business for Dummies.
Great. Well, congrats on the book coming out. And you have your podcast too, right? Did you mention that?
Thank you so much, Jeff. I did not. And that is The Aspiring Solopreneur. And you can find myself on there as well as my co-host, Joe Rando. That's his real name. It's not a made up name. It's actually Joe Rando.
All right. Again, thanks for being here. And Ken, would you like to do the honors today and take us out?
Sure. So if you enjoyed the episode today, please share it with your fellow business owners and colleagues. And if you could, leave us a review. That helps us get more visibility. And we put this on to really try to help small businesses understand the crazy world of marketing. And also don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And we would love to have any ideas that you have on any upcoming topics that you would love for us to cover. So with that, until next week, keep calm and let's wait for Ian to join us again.